be afraid. I'm here to help. I am Mysterio, and I am putting Spider-Man on notice. There's no place you'll be able to hide, and nowhere you can run.
This is Mr. Beck.
We could have used someone like you on my world.
Your world?
Beck is from Earth, just not ours. The snap tore a hole in our dimension.
Welcome, fellow game pothead, your pal Puttyman here, and finally, I've gotten back from watching Spider-Man Far From Home, and boy, do I have a lot to cover, especially in the spoiler part of this video. But do not get off this video yet, because we always do the spoiler-free part, and I give you a huge warning when I'm going to jump into spoilers. So before we get started with the spoiler-free part, if at any point you do like this video, please hit that like button, please hit the subscribe button, and please hit that little notification bell and become part of the notification squad. So, there's a lot of things that are going to be covered in this video, especially with the spoiler part. But as for the spoiler-free, I want to state one thing and one thing only. When it comes to Spider-Man, I've never been that big on the Amazing Spider-Man series. I like the Sam Raimi ones, but they're not my favorites. Honestly, I felt Homecoming was a fantastic Spider-Man, probably one of the best live-action Spider-Mans. Still to this day, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is probably the best Spider-Man, and you can actually see it on Netflix now. They just dropped it yesterday on Netflix in the States. I'm not sure if it's in Canada or anywhere else. So if you can't see that Spider-Man Far From Home, definitely go go watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on Netflix. But then that brings me to the point of this. Is Far From Home better than Homecoming, and is it the best Spider-Man? Well, I'm going to state this right now. As far as Spider-Man movies go, this is quite possibly the best live-action Spider-Man. Now, I know I get excited about movies, things of that nature, but the reason I really feel so strongly about this Spider-Man movie is because, you know, when it comes to Marvel movies, they change stuff, things of that nature. They're always going to change stuff. But what made this movie so solid is I'm not really familiar with who directed this movie, but they have a hand on how Spider-Man moves when it comes to the movies. Spider-Man has always moved gracefully in the movies, but like when it comes to the comic books, he's very quick on his feet and in the air when it comes to using his webbing. So I've always wanted him to be able to correctly show how fast and how nimble that character can be when it comes to using his webbing and climbing on walls and things of that nature. Unbelievably, the action scenes in this movie are an awe to see. It's amazing how in certain parts of the movie, which I'm not going to explain what's going on, not even the trailers show it proof, and that's because the parts where he really goes off as Spider-Man can't be shown in the trailers. If you've seen the movie, you understand why, and that's mainly the reason why I can't really get into what he's fighting or who he's fighting or things of that nature when it comes to those fighting scenes. But they're just so breathtaking. Now, I saw it in 3D, and visually it was amazing. I don't think you really need to have to enjoy it in 3D to really understand how great it is visually. And this was more down to earth, the best action-packed Spider-Man movie that they've ever made in my eyes. And this is including the train scene from Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Octopus, which was an amazing scene. But honestly, this tops it. There's one scene in this movie that tops it altogether, and it just is such an amazing awe to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and highlight characters that are in this movie that I feel are great, that I think that are shine when it comes to this movie, okay? So first and foremost, Tom Holland always is going to shine as a Spider-Man. He 100% in my eyes is the best Spider-Man they've ever made. Marvel knew what they were doing when they cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man. They did a fantastic job. Tom Holland, it's like he was made for this role. Then there's Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Now Mysterio has like in the comic books, Mysterio actually, aka Quentin Beck, actually comes out as a special effects wizard and stuntman. but he tries to go into the world of an acting and ends up being a really bad actor that it puts him into a life of crime. Now, is it portrayed in this movie that way? I'm going to leave that up to you guys to see. But I will state that Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck was amazing. I felt him as Quentin Beck more than I ever thought, actually. Like he is in the realm in my eyes to Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. It really was a superb play of that character, especially if you're familiar with the Mysterio character. I felt he did a great job in that role. Now, there's also the next two people I'm going to talk about is Zendaya as MJ, and then Jacob Batal as Ned. Now, Zendaya, cute, pretty girl, very fantastic. Honestly, I think she's a pretty girl. Marissa Tomei, I actually liked May Parker, aka Miss Marissa Tomei, way more in this movie, and I can't express why, but she just plays this character amazingly. But honestly, the one that shined to me was actually Ned Leeds, and this is how I feel. Ned Leeds' character, he's doing so well as that supportive man behind the computer, man behind the desk, man behind the seat, that kind of whatever you want to call it. His character is fantastic. And even though he may not have much screen time, I really like the casting of this. The first movie, I felt like it didn't embrace him as much, so it didn't really get to put off as many, what's the word I'm looking for, as really embrace how fantastic he is as this character. Like, it was basically molded for him, even though I'm not really familiar with the Ned Leeds in the comic books as much. So, for me, it's more of, I feel like they molded for him, and it really works out for the character. As far as Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, it feels like it's the same thing we usually get, so it's nothing different. Same thing with Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan. But I will state that Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan and Tom Holland's Spider-Man has a deeper feeling in this movie, and that's all I'm gonna say. They are together. They work a lot better together than I even feel Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan with Iron Man. And they were two. When it comes to Happy Hogan and Iron Man, it was a great role together. But it changes in this, and it's different in this movie. And I feel like he seems to do it so well. So now we still have the other characters like J.B. Smoove, Martin Starr that plays as the teachers. They're great. There's nothing to really stand out, to be honest with you guys, when it comes to those two actors. I really can't point out anything spectacular. Maybe a few funny moments here and there, but nothing that really gave me a chuckle. Outside of that, when it comes to the individual roles, as far as the movie and plot itself, I'm not going to say too much, only because of one reason. I'm pretty good I feel sometimes when it comes to Marvel movies, I'm pretty good at predicting things. And this is one of those movies that, based on what I say, if I say whether I'm right or wrong, it's going to largely, especially my regular viewers, it's going to largely give them emphasis on what I meant. And that's all I'm going to say. Like, whether I was right or wrong, it'd be like, oh, it's a spoiler in its own, basically, in that way. So, the last thing I want to go into is the big monsters you see. The big monsters that they call the elementals that you're seeing. Now, that's all I'm going to say, is that they're called the elementals. There's a lot of people asking if it's certain characters that are in the world of the comic books, and I honestly can't really tell you without putting spoilers in that as well. It's hard when it comes to this movie to really talk in depth about plots or scenes. I will state, though, when it comes to Easter eggs and fan love, even if you love the old Sam Raimi movies, there's so much love put into this movie when it comes to the old movies and the newer movies, that even when it comes to Marvel and just Spider-Man in general, that it no matter where you're at on the spectrum, whether you're a Spider-Man fan or, like the old, any of the movies, or if you're a Marvel fan, there's something in this movie that's going to give you everything all the way to the end, after the credits. So without a doubt, They hit a home run on this one. I don't know who's doing the Spider-Man movies now or what to focus on. I feel like Kevin Feige is the one taking control of these, and that's why they're so good. And Kevin Feige has even stated himself that he loves the Spider-Man franchise. And for Sony to say, you know what, Kevin Feige, here, take it. If that's what they're doing, good job, keep doing it. It's a great, great movie in my eyes. But of course, you're going to have strict critics out there that don't agree. And I'm not wanting that too strict. Because I'm willing to be the open article of I understand different characters, but I also have to keep in mind that you can't put a 20-book miniseries of a comic book into a 2 to 2.5 hour movie. And always when they work with it, if they work with it properly, it comes out fantastic. And this is one of those things. So, I'm going to go into the spoiler part of this video. Before I actually do that, though, I want to bring up one thing that that is going to be spoiler for a comic book, okay? So if you don't want spoilers for the movie, this is not a spoiler for the movie. This is more of a spoiler for the Old Man Logan comic books. And you'll understand why I say this when you go to see this new movie. It's not spoiling anything for this movie, but I want to explain why Mysterio is such a lucrative character and such a badass character. So, if you're really interested in reading the Old Man Logan comic books, stop here. That's going to be a spoiler for that. If you don't care, then listen to this. This is going to blow your mind. And then we're going to go into the spoiler review of the actual movie Spider-Man Far From Home. So, here's one thing I want to point out. In in the Old Man Logan comic books, there's an alternate reality in the Marvel Universe where Mysterio actually tricks Logan. This is how visceral Mysterio can be as a character. He literally tricks Logan to see a bunch of enemies in front of him. And at one point, Wolverine is fighting against Bullseye and literally strikes him into the gut and stabs him hard. Then Logan, aka Wolverine, finds out that Mysterio tricked him. And he looks around and he's killed every single X-Men. And the character that was Bullseye, aka, Bullseye from Daredevil, was not Bullseye. Mysterio tricked him and it was Jubilee. Mysterio has done some really, really visceral stuff things. And again, if you're watching this part right now, you see the pictures that popped up. These are some visceral pictures. So, this is why I have to go into detail about the spoiler part of this movie. Because again, I'm not spoiling anything. But I want you guys to understand why we'll never see something like this. We'll never see Mysterio push the limits of doing something like this because of everything having to be PG to PG-13 and never be rated R like Logan. But if we ever get this world, this is what I want to see one day. I want to see this happen because it's fucked up, but at the same time, that's crazy, and comic books are actually like this guy. So, with that, we are going to go into spoiler territory for Spider-Man Far From Home. So if you have not seen the movie and you do not want to be spoiled, this is the time to stop. I appreciate you watching from here to check out my review. At this point, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you're definitely going to want to see it. Whether you're a Sam Raimi Spider-Man fan, whether you're the Spider-Man Homecoming Spider-Man fan, or a Spider-Man MCU. If you're an Amazing Spider-Man fan, God, these are way better. You should still see it because you need to learn a lesson. But anyway, so with that, we're going to go into spoiler territory. The spoiler's been popped up on the screen, so let's go into it.
Who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal, that's who he is. A vigilante, a public menace. Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Mr. Jameson, please, isn't there any of these shots you can use? I really need the money.
Miss Brandt?
Yes.
Get me a violin.
5 minutes to deadline, Jonah.
All right, run a picture of a rancid chicken. Here's a headline. Food poisoning scare sweeps city.
But could you pay me in advance?
You serious? What are we going to call this guy?
Dr. Octopus.
That's crap.
Science Squid?
Crap.
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken. Wait, I got it. Dr. Octopus.
But I like it.
Of course you do. Dr. Octopus. New villain in town. Doc Ock.
Genius.
What, are you looking for a raise? Get out. It's all my fault.
I drove Spider-Man away.
He was the only one who could have stopped Octavius.
Yes. Spider-Man was a hero. I just couldn't see it. He was a thief! A criminal! He stole my suit! He's a menace to the entire city! I want that wall-crawling arachnid prosecuted! I want him strung up by his web! I want Spider-Man!
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw were scenes of J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Now you might be wondering, or you might not be, if you've seen the Spider-Man or the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, if you didn't stick around for the post-credits, then you missed by far one of the best Easter eggs that Sony, Marvel, anybody could ever do. Now let me state that no fan of Spider-Man has ever said that J.K. Simmons ever was not the best part as J. Jonah Jameson. He was literally born to play that character. The voice, the look, the way he holds a cigar, everything is spot on. Even if he is bald and doesn't have the haircut from the movie, just the way he does the voice and looks into the camera as J. Jonah Jameson, it's him. There's nobody else I ever feel in my lifetime that could ever do it. So for him to be at the end with the dailybugle.net, which by the way, I love how they use the internet for that, was amazing. That was probably one of the biggest Easter eggs ever. And it's not even done yet, guys, when it comes to Easter eggs. So we're going to jump right in with the Elementals. Now the Elementals are actually 4 characters: Earth, Fire, Wind, or Earth, Fire, Water, and Earth. Earth, Fire, Water, and Air. Okay, and that's Magnum, Hellfire, Hydrant, and Zephyr. Now, a lot of people think that it was actually Sandman, Molten Man, and Hydra Man. Those are not those characters. These are actually the Elementals. They first appeared in Supernatural Thrillers number 8 in August of 1975 against the Mummy. Okay, this is a lowbrow series that I didn't even know. I had to look up the information for when it came to this, and I knew about the Elementals because of Miss Marvel. That you actually see the Elementals in the Miss Marvel series, aka which is Captain Marvel. After a while, she goes from Captain Marvel to Miss Marvel. But I didn't actually have too much information or background about it, so I just had to look it up, and I just found out some crazy stuff. It was their own story, and Miss Marvel was the only one that encountered them. But as you already know, Mysterio made those characters up, so they're not even really thinking about it canon to real characters that exist. And this is where I really get excited about the Mysterio thing. Now, if you heard my spoiler-free part of the review, I stated that he was a special effects wizard and stuntman, but became a poor actor and turned to the life of crime using the effects he knows. And in return, though, they twisted it and used one of Tony Stark's thing, the barf, and actually made a joke on it and made it mad. But this still allowed him to have the technology capabilities like he does in the cartoon, comic books, however you want to look at it. So it doesn't change who Quentin Beck is, because if you clearly see, Quentin Beck is out to be a hero, and there were times in the comic books he was wanting to be a hero, but he wanted to fake the heroism, and he was willing to sacrifice anybody in order to do that. So, you know, we have the visceralness of him, like I told you guys about with the whole Old Man Logan. We have that visceralness because he was willing to sacrifice lives just to keep his secret. But oh, did it get blown out of the water when he twisted things, used J. Jonah Jameson to promote and actually put Peter Parker's name out there, which blew my mind. And what makes it great, guys, is I could definitely tell you that this is setting up for Sinister Six. Why? Let me explain. In Sinister Six, we have characters we have Dr. Octopus, you have Mysterio, I think Vulture was in there at one point, and one character I want to bring up, which is Chameleon. Now, Chameleon's real name is Dmitry Smerdyakov, and if you actually listen, there's at one point where you actually have Nick Fury, then you have I can't think of her name now. Anyway, you have the Nick Fury and what's her name? Then you also have, of course, Mysterio, aka Quentin Beck, and then a character by the name of Dimitri. I think Dimitri is going to be part of the Sinister Six, and he was just in the shadows, been working with Quentin Beck. Because we don't see Dimitri again, except for when we see him on the bus, stopping Peter Parker, so he can go do what he was supposed to do to meet up with Nick Fury. Literally, I think they're setting up the little secret that Dimitri is going to be Chameleon because of the character Dmitry Smerdyakov. If you actually look at the character, he looks like he's of Russian descent. So to see that they're laying the ground for those hidden things is awesome. And then of course we have the ending where we find out that that Nick Fury and her were actually Skrulls. So they're still implementing, and this is at the end of the credit scene, so if you didn't see this, this is also something that you missed. And so they're implementing the Skrulls again, and it confuses me. Are they still going to keep the Skrulls good? Because as you see, Nick Fury is now in the middle of the Skrull situation. And it's like, I'm so confused on what the situation with those characters is. But it's such a great Easter egg because it connects, again, Captain Marvel into this whole situation. So I'm blissfully happy about that, but honestly, I feel the whole thing in the post-credits, where Spider-Man sees J. Jonah Jameson, and then they reveal to the world that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Now, they could always go back and fix this. Nick Fury, maybe even Happy can cover this up and say it's not true. But again, J. Jonah Jameson, aka J.K. Simmons, which I love saying that. Everyone knows in the Sam Raimi movies, the best thing in my eyes was J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. And for them to cast him as J. Jonah Jameson literally brought a tear to my eye. Like, literally in the theaters, everyone that was in there with me applauded when we saw them. Like, that tells you there are older people there, people that are Spider-Man fans, but people that don't just casually watch Spider-Man. They applauded so much to see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson that everyone knew clearly he was made for that role, and no one else could fill in the shoes, and I to this day can never fill it. There's not many people or actors out there that fill in a role so much that you go, anybody else that plays it will never be able to pull it off like that actor did. And that is exactly what J.K. Simmons is as J. Jonah Jameson. So, just to see him in the movie, that's right there the biggest Easter egg. Like, it was a big applaud to me as everything else. There were little things here and there that I can't even remember right now. Like, I know I saw little hints of things, like numbers and things of that nature. Like, I remember there was one thing where it was issue 167. There was and it was actually about I think you actually see the mark for issue 13 for Amazing Spider-Man 13, which is the first appearance of Mysterio. There's a number 13 somewhere you actually see, which was, and then they actually show the date of 1967 when he first came out. So, or that comic book came out. So there's little Easter eggs like that you do find out, which I can't remember where they are, to be honest with you, because of course I was so into the movie that I see those glimpses of Easter eggs and those natures, see them real quick, and then they're gone. Then I totally forget, or not really forget, but forget exactly where I saw it. So with that, guys, I highly recommend that if you're listening to my spoiler review, you still go see this movie just to see J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Like, I'm not joking. That was a jaw-dropping, awesome moment in my eyes. So, there you guys have it. That is my official review for Spider-Man Far From Home. If you did like this video, make sure you hit the like button, make sure to subscribe button. Tell your friends to see the movie. Well, let's get it big in the box office, guys. And as always, I am Puttyman. I love you guys. I love doing these reviews. And do not forget, Robot Die Score. Peace out. I'll talk to y'all later.